Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another What I'm Reading Right Now video here on the channel. I'm being blinded by the mid-afternoon sun. It's Wednesday the 18th of January when I'm filming this, and I've got loads of books to tell you about. Since the last time we spoke, I finished... Was it 9 things? It might be 9 things. We're going to talk about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, and what I'm going to be reading next. I hope you're very, very excited. This is going to be a bit of a whirlwind in terms of production schedule because I am away this weekend, so I don't have time to edit before then. We're going to power through, don't worry about it too much. The first thing I finished was Dreadful Company by Vivian Shaw. This is the second book in the Greta Helsing series, the first of which is Strange Practice. I read this, and I followed it on with Grave Importance, which is the third book. So I can now say that this year, I finally finished this trilogy after reading Strange Practice many, many years ago. Let me talk about these separately very quickly. This one is vampires, this one is mummies. We have Greta Helsing, who is a doctor to the undead. These are kind of like urban fantasy almost books. They're so much fun. They're kind of mysteries. Found family features a lot more than I remembered it doing, but I'm very excited to say that it does. Just a really good, humorous, that's a bone-based pun in case you were wondering, series that actually I think has a lot of heart to it. It really reminds me in tone of the Archive of the Forgotten series, the Hell's Library stuff. Definitely very familiar in that sense. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a similar editor. I really, really enjoyed these. I thought they were great. I would definitely recommend that series if you're looking for something a bit light-hearted but still with a lot of depth to it at this time in the new year. Definitely. Excited. These need to live somewhere sensible. I think I'm going to put them downstairs where they can sit as a series. I'm jumping about a little bit. I actually finished Grave Importance today when I'm filming this, and Dreadful Company was first, but we got to keep series together or we're going to lose track of everything. What does the spreadsheet say next? After that, I finished Lyrael by Garth Nix. This is the second book in the Old Kingdom series. I had a good time with this. I think it is a good book. It is definitely a book that tackles a lot of very dark things for a series aimed at a younger audience. These are YA, I would say. Well, they're definitely YA, but there are some content warnings I would look up if you're planning on reading, especially Lyrael. Very much enjoyed it. I think I don't love the characters in this as much as I love Sabriel, and I still have the feeling I had when I first read this, which is, but I just want more of Sabriel. And she does feature in these books, but we've moved on in time a little bit, and it's just not as enjoyable. But Abhorsen, the third book, jumps straight in after the events of Lyrael, so I'm excited to get that little bit of continuity there. Overall, had a good time with it. Just have some things that I think are personal preference reasons I don't love Lyrael as much as I love Sabriel. There we go. I read Animorphs 47, it finally happened, on a live stream on Sunday morning. I finally finished it. It's a weird one. Don't know how I'm going to make a video for it, but that's next week, Judith's problem. I'm not going to hold this up for too long because the light will bounce off the library binding, but this is Shadows of the Self by Brandon Sanderson. It is the second book in the Mistborn Era 2 series. I liked this. I think I liked it more than Alloy of Law, partly because it's obviously once the series had kind of got going into being a series. I think that overall this isn't my favourite kind of Brandon Sanderson writing. We've talked about this. I feel like I talk about it every week. I prefer his like higher fantasy stuff. This isn't exactly my jam, but I did enjoy this more than I have previous books of his. I think I'm going to be interested to see how it all comes together when I've read all of the Mistborn Era 2, at least as far as we've got, and just see how I feel about it overall. I think so far there's not a character that I'm like, oh, I absolutely love them. There's a lot of people where I'm like, oh, you're a cool individual, or you seem interesting, or I get what your whole deal is, but there's no one that I am latched onto as I am with his other series. We'll see how we go. I polished off another trilogy very, very quickly. In fact, these were speedy reads. This is the Sineater's Daughter trilogy by Melinda Salisbury. We have The Sineater's Daughter, The Sleeping Prince, and The Scarecrow Queen. They look very similar, so I'm just going to hold up one of them. I actually really enjoyed rereading this. I kind of did it as, well, it's for an Overbooked series, but I did read the first one thinking, if I don't get on with book one, I'm not going to bother reading the other two. And while I would not necessarily say these are absolute must-reads, yes, you absolutely have to go in for it. I did enjoy reading that kind of time capsule of 2015 to 2017 YA. There's something to be said for just like how much like repression really was a theme at that point. I remember there being lots of books about young girls who just couldn't touch anyone because their touch would do bad things, and then, shock horror, maybe they're able to touch people. But in this book we follow Twila, who is or might be Twyla. My brain processed it as Twila. She is sort of the executioner of the royal court, and she has deadly poison in her skin, and she is sent down to kill people, and that's really all the setup I can say without spoiling anything. But you can imagine how a YA book where the main character can't touch anyone and has guards might go. maybe you can imagine. The second book follows a different character and the third book brings all those three characters together. The main thing I'll say is this made a lot more sense reading it back to back. I think I must have read them with a fairly big gap in between, at least between book 1 and 2, and I think between book 2 and 3 as well. I genuinely can't remember. I think both of these were a really good example of how much more enjoyable trilogies are if you can remember what happens, particularly when they're switching character around as much as these do. I'm not going to say that the two female characters in this are interchangeable, but there's not... I'm just going to stop talking because I feel like I'm insulting the books and I don't want to do that, but it was... There's a lot of familiarity in this, shall we say. Still, really glad I read them. Overbooked video coming soon. The other thing that I've read during this period is I finally finished A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Harrow. This is the sequel to A Spindle Splintered, which is kind of a world in which there are fairy tales and there's kind of a fairy tale multiverse thing going on. And we have a modern main character who, I don't want to talk too much about book 2 because it would spoil book 1, but she's a modern character going into fairy tale worlds. I really like this. I think I liked it less than book 1, and I think partly that's just my personal thing about not loving, I don't love a lot of pop culture references and things. I think they date stuff really easily, and even this is not the most egregious example of that, but it does feel very kind of like, oh, how is this going to stand up in 5 years, you know, that kind of thing. I did, however, still think it was really well written. I liked the plot. It's LGBT in a fun way, and yeah, I would read again. I think I would recommend the audiobooks. Not my favourite thing, but definitely worth reading. The first one was better. Still to read this week, I have A Portion by Garth Nix, continuing on with the Old Kingdom project. I have The Curse of the Gloamgloser, starting my Edge Chronicles project. Really, really excited to pick this up. This might be what I read next. And I have Terraformers, which I was meant to finish last week, but I didn't because I am... overloaded somewhat, and I thought maybe we'll leave this one for now. So I do need to pick that back up again now that I'm done with all of the various series that I'm working on. That is the Annalee Newitt's dark sci-fi. It's really good. I'm 40% of the way in and I'm really enjoying it. I just need to dedicate some time to sitting and reading it, and I haven't done that yet. So that's on the list. Again, I'm on a big train journey. It'll happen. Next week I start The Bands of Mourning by Brandon Sanderson. I have actually requested this in the library, so I need to go pick it up before I start it, but that's a future job. In terms of continuing projects, I have Clariel. Again, need to go get it from the library, but do have it on my list. And Edge Chronicles, I'll be reading The Winter Nights. Just expect a lot of Edge Chronicles and Old Kingdom for the next few weeks. And then I am actually starting the Great Leveller collection by Joe Abercrombie. I'm starting Best Served Cold, which I believe is the first book. No, it's in the middle, because somebody owned this before me. This is secondhand. Looking forward to it. Grimdark, don't know if my brain's ready for it, but I'm ready to try. And also a reread of The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab, because we are about to hit the V.E. Schwab portion of Overbooked, and I think we'll be there for a while, so I've got a lot of rereads of her stuff coming as well. Books that I've added to my TBR, as you will know, I'm not particularly book buying at the moment, but I have had a few review copies come in, and I did spend some Audible credits before I cancelled my Audible subscription so that I would have the next 2 books in the Stormlight archive, because I really enjoyed doing the first 2 by audiobook, and I thought, why not? It worked before, it'll work again. So I did buy Oathbringer and Rhythm of War by audiobook. I'm really excited to get to those. I think it's in like 3 or 4 weeks we'll be at that point. I'm not 100% sure. There's a lot of novellas and short stories in the middle. And I also got 2 NetGalley approvals. I got approved for The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi, which I'm so excited for. This is the Shannon Chakraborty book that is pirates or seafaring and one last job, and it's going to be so much fun, and we're going to buddy read it as Space Sirens because a lot of us got approved for the review copy, and oh, I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped. And also The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten, which is, I'm not really sure 100% all the things about it. It sounded like it might be a good time, and I'm interested to see how Hannah Witten's writing has improved since For the Wolf, because if you'll remember, I didn't love For the Wolf, so we're going to see how we go. I think it's going to be a good time. New releases out this week, we have Venom Dark and Sweet by Judy Eileen. This is the sequel to A Magic Steeped in Poison. I read it a couple of weeks ago and I did enjoy it. I think it is a YA fantasy duology sequel, so it's never going to be my exact thing. One day I'll find one that I like, but if you are interested in reading that, that is now out in the UK. It's been out in the US for a while. The Keepers 6 by Kate Elliott is out. This is a book that I really want to read. I really like Kate Elliott's writing. I'm really excited for the sequel to Unconquerable Sun this year. I don't have a copy of this, but I do really want to read it. It's going on my kind of catch-up list for the year. And also The Mysteries of Thorn Manor is out. If you are a person who loved Sorcery of Thorns and you want to read the follow-on novella, you can now read that. And it is not atrociously priced for a novella. Don't get me wrong, it's expensive, but it's not atrociously priced, and they're not paying me to say that. It's just my own opinions about the prices of novellas recently. And lastly, a book that isn't really on my radar. I'm really interested to see what people think about it, and then I might read it, but Godkiller by Hannah, is it Kana or Kana, is out as well. I liked the cover. I haven't got a copy. I'd be interested to know what you think if you are planning on reading it. If you watch my 2023 reading resolutions, you'll know that every 4 weeks, as in the 4th week of every chunk of 4 weeks, I am taking a week off. I'm just trying to put less in my schedule and use it for a bit of catch up. Next week is catching up on Animorphs. I Don't know if I'm going to make a weekly reading video for that. We might do 2 weeks catch up the next time. I honestly haven't decided. It's going to depend where my brain is at. I've got a lot of travel over the next few weeks, so I might just want to take it easy. If you have notifications enabled, you'll get to know whether there's a video on Friday or not, or you can just come back and check the channel. I'm not too worried about it. What have you been reading? What have you been up to? I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on reading trilogies back to back versus leaving long gaps between them? Do you have strong opinions? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also follow me on social media. Come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I would like to say an enormous huge thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content and live streams. If you would like to join their number, you can check that out down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. That's all from me and I will see you in the next one. It's gonna be some bloopers now. I'm jumping about a bit. Look, give me my spreadsheet. And I just need to dedicate some time to sitting and watching it. In terms of continuing projects, I have